What's up everybody, welcome back to Legitstreetcars. My name is Alex and this is build part 2 of my Mercedes E55 AMG. If you missed part 1, don't worry about it, I will always link them in the description below, but we installed this, a VRP heat exchanger, and in today's video, we're gonna continue on with the cooling mods on this car. I'm gonna be installing this. It's a 2.5 gallon water / coolant tank that's gonna mount over here right by where the cabin filter used to sit. And what's really cool about this tank is you can pack it full of ice, like if you're at the track and you wanna lower your intake air temperatures even more. Pretty neat. So we're gonna be installing this, and then to complete, don't fall, to complete the cooling system on this car, we're gonna be installing one of the best coolant pumps on the market. This is a VRP Superflo Pump. So I'm gonna show you how this installs. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna be doing with the wiring. And also, if you're wondering, yes, I will be cleaning these disgusting headlights on the car, or I might replace the lenses. If you guys know of like cheap lenses I can put on here that would make this a lot easier, please definitely link them down below. But anyway, we got a ton to do. Let's start off with the coolant tank over on the right-hand side of the car. We're gonna start this project off by removing the factory cabin filter housing because the tank is gonna fit right here. Since we're ditching this factory cabin filtration system, we wanna do something to filter the air going in. So we're gonna be installing this filter with this screen right here, and we actually have to remove a piece from the firewall, fit this in, and then put that piece back over it. Now, obviously, this isn't gonna be as good as the factory Mercedes cabin filter, but seeing as how some cars, like my 2013 Chevy Volt, no cabin filter, there's a spot for it, and you can buy the filter from the parts department, but they don't install it from the factory. $45,000 car, no cabin filter. But anyway, it's totally fine without it, but I wanna do something at least since there'll be nothing here. So we're gonna install this. So we're gonna start off by taking this off, and yes, this is a black pillowcase for my fender cover. I had some really nice Mercedes-Benz ones, but I've been using them for 15 years. They're totally worn out, so I threw them in the garbage. Ready to at least mock this up right now, see how it's gonna fit, and then we can maybe get the fittings in here. That would help. So let's go ahead and put this in. It sits right in here this way, and it goes right up against that cabin filter area. Yeah, so basically, it basically sits like this. Now, I'm going to take this out and we're gonna install the fittings right here with some Teflon tape. But this is essentially how it fits. I just wanted to put it in here to see what kind of room I'm gonna have. I might have to mess around with the area where the windshield washer fluid neck is with this bottom fitting, but yeah, let's go get the fittings in here and then we'll get it more permanently mounted. Before I thread the fittings into the coolant tank, I just wanted to show you guys something. It's a really basic thing for all you seasoned professionals out there. You're gonna think this is dumb, but it's something that at some point in my life I didn't know, so I figured I would show everyone out there, and that's the proper way of putting Teflon tape on a fitting before you thread it in. There is a right way and a wrong way, believe it or not. So I'm gonna show you really quick. It matters which side you start the tape on, okay? So if you start wrapping it this way or wrapping it from the top, it makes a big difference. In this case, wrapping it from the top is the improper way to do this, and I'll show you why. This one here, this was wrapped from the top, okay? Now obviously the tape is gonna lay down like that, but when you go to thread this in, since you're going against the grains with the threads, it's going to bunch this up. This is gonna be hard to see, but here, see how it's bunching it up right there? And it's ripping the Teflon tape as you turn, and it's all gonna bunch up, see? And that's gonna cause for a really, really bad seal. So you gotta pay attention. In this case, starting with the Teflon tape from the bottom is the right way to go. So then you end up like this. So see how when we turn this to the right, obviously, it's not gonna bunch up, it's just gonna go with the thread. So anyway, just a quick little tip, pay attention to the way you start the Teflon tape and you won't have any issues with leaking. These are all installed, ready to go. And I just wanted to show you something. If you remember from the first video, the reason my air conditioning condenser was all clogged up was because both of these power steering coolers were leaking, and all it was a couple of the O-rings that sit at the bottom. They're flattened out and dry and hard and just generally old, and you know, they're 14 years old. So I needed to get new O-rings, obviously. I called 2 different dealerships and they said I had to buy the entire power steering cooler just to get the O-rings. Now, I didn't look into this much online to see if there was an aftermarket solution because I use this a lot. Check this out. This is a master O-ring kit. Now this is like my second one because I use this so often, but there's basically every O-ring you could ever imagine in here. And of course, I think it was this one, I found 4 of them that fit the oil cooler perfectly. I'll link this down below, of course. This is only like 35 bucks, so huge lifesaver. All right, guys, we're ready to put the tank in. I just wanted to show you real quick. I did have to modify the bracket on the firewall, and this is where the factory cabin filter housing attaches to. I had to cut out a lot of the bottom and trim some of the top, as you can see there. That way the tank will fit and you can close your hood. So that's all done, so let's get this tank in. Tank is in, it looks fantastic. I'm really excited this is coming together. Obviously I have the bottom hose already installed. I still have to install the top hose. I just wanted to let you know that if you wanted to, you could add some sort of bracket to more positively mount this tank. I have it sitting on little foam isolators so it doesn't contact any parts of the body of the car, and it's mounted in here really well. Like, it's definitely not going anywhere, especially once you put water in it. But you could add that bracket, and then again, I did have to trim this plastic part that goes onto the firewall. So that's like test and fit. You just gotta take a little bit off, test it back on there, make sure that it's a snug fit against the tank. So other than that, let's move on to the pump. All right, so here's the Superflo pump. Now this bracket or the pump is not specific to the E55, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of work to get this mounted properly. Now luckily, one of the factory studs on this factory mounting bracket lines up perfectly, so we can definitely use that bottom one. But we're gonna wanna attach it from the top part of the bracket as well. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of work to figure out a good mounting point for that, and we may end up having to use a self-tapping bolt. So let's get to work and try and get this pump properly mounted. Superflo pump is mounted, and it's mounted very firm to the car. This isn't going anywhere. Now, originally I was gonna take the top tab of the bracket and just cut it off. That way the bracket for the pump could sit flat up against that and I could drill a hole through it to put a self-tapping bolt. And I said, Alex, put the cutoff wheel down. All you need to do is take some pliers and just bend that top of the bracket up, and this will sit flat up against it. So that's what I did. I put the self-tapper in there. It's absolutely perfect. We're ready to go. So let's move on to the wiring, get this thing all wired up and actually working. All right, guys, welcome to the driver's side fuse box. Now I want to accomplish 2 things with the wiring of the Superflo pump. First things first, I want this pump to come on anytime the engine is running. So basically, key on ignition power, I want it on. Now the factory does this a different way. I'm not exactly sure. Something about it reaches a certain temperature and then it kicks the pump on or something like that. Maybe someone out there knows exactly what they do, and you can comment down below and explain to everybody how the factory works. But whatever the case is, I want to wire it so that it's on all the time. Secondly, I want to upgrade the actual gauge of the wiring going to this pump. This pump pulls about 8 amps or so. So this is 16 gauge and that'll work out great. So what I wanted to show you was something actually the previous owner did for me, which is great because I was gonna do this exact same thing. And he put in one of these, and I will link these down below. They're super cheap. I think they're literally called like add a fuse or add a circuit or something like that. And all you do is you pick out one of the factory circuits on the car, you remove the fuse, and you put that fuse in the bottom slot of this, and then whatever your new circuit is, in this case the coolant pump, you put that fuse in the top. So I'm gonna run a 15 amp fuse, or actually he already did, which is perfect. And then all you do is you plug this in directly where the original 40 amp fuse used to go, and you're done. You've added a circuit, you haven't hacked up your car, you haven't cut anything. It's really awesome, and these are really cheap. They're a couple bucks, so I will link them down below. So let's go ahead and just plug this in, and then I just have to solder in the wiring to the pump. It already has a connector going to it from VRP, and then honestly the wiring is all done, so let's just get to it. Okay, the wiring is all complete on the E55. I had to use the world's largest heat shrink, and then I put tape over it. I ran out of the right heat shrink, but that's okay. Everything looks really nice. It's basically like some German guy in Germany put this all together, so it's perfect. So wiring is all done. Let's hook up a bunch of hoses, fill this thing up with some water, and see if it actually works. And then obviously, we gotta remount the heat exchanger. Okay, the sound of success. Check this out. Look at the flow coming out here. This is just a hose I hooked up to the factory intercooler bleeding port. Look at that. And then look at that return. Yeah, this pump is working great. There are no leaks. Super excited about this setup. All right, this part of the build is all done. It went really well. There's no leaks. The pump is working perfectly fine. I just wanted to show you that I did have to lower this end of the heat exchanger in order to get the air to come out through these hoses and bleed out through the tank. And then I also had to raise the back of the tank to get the water to flow down into the pump. And then the final step was just simply turning the ignition on, since that's how I wired up the pump, and bleeding it through the factory intercooler bleeding port with a hose hooked up back to the tank. So I ran it for about a minute and it's all done. Did you see the flow coming from this pump? I am super excited to see how much it lowers my intake air temperatures, which brings me to another point. In the next video, I'm gonna cover data logging. I'm gonna put together kind of an inexpensive way that you can data log on your E55. Now this is super important. You do all these mods to your car, but then you don't know exactly what it's doing to your engine. So data logging is very important. It comes in handy also with tuning, especially with like mail order tunes, where you can actually give them information and they can modify your tune to make more power on your car. So we're gonna go over that in another video. For anyone new checking in for the first time, I'd absolutely love to have you subscribe. We hit like 30,000 subs a few days ago, so I'm super pumped. Thank you so much to my current subscribers. Also, no, I did not use organic 1% milk. I cleaned that out with water. Trust me, I will have people in the comment section telling me, you're not supposed to put milk in there, Alex. And I know, that is water. With that being said, I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video.